Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show on Thursday, May 1st, 2025, a real month and a real year. It is somehow already May. We are somehow already 1 week removed from the 2025 NFL Draft, and myself, Patrick Daugherty, we're going to continue doing the fallout with Mr. Denny Carter and Kyle Dvorchak. Denny has an article up on some steals from draft weekend. I have an article up on some fantasy fits from draft weekend. Kyle, along with Mr. Eric Froton, has AFC and NFC draft grades out. Kyle focused on the NFC. He's going to get to one of his best drafts, one of his worst drafts. Well, we're not doing his actual worst because everyone just knows it's the Falcons. So we're not.
Yeah, it goes without saying every year.
Yeah. It truly does go without saying this point. Also goes without saying real quick that obviously the elephant in the room, it's not about football. I'm going to make this statement. I know everyone agrees with it.
Okay. But
after watching the first round of the NBA playoffs, it's just abundantly clear the time has come for the Los Angeles Lakers to trade Luka Doncic. No, man, come on, anyone?
No, that was so much better. I thought we were doing Jordan LeBron, and I was already like, I had.
Well, we don't need to do that because that one's been settled for 30.
That's been settled for 15 years, man.
So no point in doing that. Jordan,
LeBron's been in the league more than 15 years, so I think we can agree there.
LeBron, So why does he still have 2 fewer titles after stacking the deck on every single one of his teams? Very curious,
dude.
Yeah, maybe playing with Scottie Pippen versus Matthew Dellavedova makes a difference.
Instead of beating all the best players in the NBA, he simply had them join his team.
Yeah, that one's kind of lame if I'm being honest. Maybe don't do that. Well, to be clear, also Jordan did a lot of that too, but.
No, he did not. Just also to be clear,
no, those are bad. He played on bad teams.
Something went mega viral recently, by the way. That it was like because the LeBron stands like sometimes like will act like even Jordan wasn't athletic, and like someone recently did a clip of Jordan is still. It is like absolutely insane to see.
Yes,
LeBron has a very strong claim to being the second best player of all time.
Yeah, sure.
The most unfairly maligned athlete in probably the history of American sports.
I don't know, man. I actually did watch the first half. Obviously, no East Coaster can stay up for the second half of a West Coast game. But
that's correct. I was not up.
I watched the first half of that Wolves Lakers game. I call them the Wolves because they're my favorite team. And there are times, I have to say, I was reminded there are times when you forget that LeBron James is on the court. He's just part of the game. He just kind of runs.
Not really.
He runs back and forth. He doesn't demand the ball. He doesn't seem interested. I feel like
fear. Just gonna be honest with you.
With Jordan, you always knew when he was on the court.
Okay. To be fair to the LeBron backers, he is what is known as 40 years old. And LeBron, I think MJ's final title, I believe, was 35, which last time I checked, they're half decade.
All right.
No difference between old and young people, folks. There's simply no difference. It's all the same.
I don't know, old and young ages.
I would like to see LeBron demand the basketball.
Hold on. Your takeaway from this series is LeBron and not Luka. Like I know LeBron had 2 bad fourth quarters, but Luka, like, listen, how there's always those things going viral. Like, could you hit an MLB pitch? And like, could you return 1 point against Serena Williams? And then you spend like all this time devising your strategies, how you might do it. One of mine is like an NBA coach tells you have to go to the hole in Luka Doncic and get a bucket. And, like I'm out there like shaking, like how am I going to do this? And I just easily do it.
Yep.
I
knew where you were going. Yeah,
right to the hoop. And I easily get to the rim. I easily get to the rack on Luka.
Can we address the elephant in the room?
I feel like we've addressed how many elephants are in this room?
I don't know which one.
There are a lot. I already addressed the second large, the biggest elephant in the room. Luka, man, you gotta start working out.
Yeah,
you gotta do something, man. Because it's
like local blogger Patrick Daugherty easily getting to the rack.
like you can't get by on like your unbelievable talent. Eventually, there are going to have to be some sit-ups involved.
Producer Adams suggesting he plays simply 1 defensive possession. I was almost getting sad, like seeing Anthony Edwards. Like, I guess I'm gonna go easily dunk on Luka again.
Oh God, yeah, that was sad. And then Anthony Edwards is outside the stadium, just humiliating Lakers fans. Oh,
Anthony Edwards also bricking 4,000 threes last night. I do love Ant is actually the closest. I think it's honestly part of like a physical resemblance. He actually kind of looks like Michael Jordan.
I mean, you've seen the side by side picture 1,000 times on Twitter. So it's pretty close, to be honest.
Ant keeps taking out superstars. We'll see if they can handle the Dubs in round 2, provided the Dubs can handle the Rockets. We'll see if you guys can handle the news that George Kittle got an extension. Not a whole lot to say here, but one of the biggest stars in fantasy football. We thought it was worth commenting on, and I just think it's worth commenting on. 31 years old, kind of a bold time to give a guy this big of a deal. George Kittle has kind of reproved his health. He's kind of like gone against the grain where he was really, not injury prone is not the right word, really banged up for several seasons. It was like late 20s, and he's actually kind of gotten healthier in his early 30s. Recently saw a video on Twitter of him like talking about getting stem cells from this random place that I thought was kind of interesting. So he got the stemmies, Denny. He's got the pennies, the monies. Luka Kittle, still clearly a top 2 or 3 fantasy tight end.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I feel like his like efficiency and production are just kind of boring at this point, and it's like like I'm gonna get like 3 week winning performances from Kittle this year. Also, the fact that the Niners might not be good. I mean, not bad, but
they'll be good.
I mean, I'm not saying bad. Although I did see an argument out there where someone was like, they're the worst team in the league. Anyway,
I think it was you. Probably.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
No. You
looking into a mirror like this guy makes some good.
I love this guy. I love this new blue sky account.
You're the Kyle Shanahan. You're the Kyle Shanahan hater. I'm the Kyle Shanahan respecter, and Kittle. Anyway, where am I going with this? Kittle is a good fantasy pick this year.
Wow. Glad we got there.
Thank you for that. Yeah. No, it is interesting because you got like the war of the roses between Ayuk and Kyle Shanahan, where Kyle Shanahan seems intent on proving like Ayuk's not even good anymore.
I know.
Debo Samuel gone.
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say. If the Niners are not good, they might have to pass more than usual. Therefore, Kittle could benefit. There you go. All right.
We have a narrowed target tree there finally. Although Demarcus Robinson, obviously the wide receiver 1, in free agency. Again, Kyle Shanahan acting offended when you intimate in October that he was not going to be. What are you talking about? That's why we signed him.
That's why we brought him in.
That's why we brought him in. Yeah. Next question, please. All right. Oh yeah, George Kittle though. I don't know. Kyle, any thought to fading George Kittle? He's about to turn 32. Turns 32 in October.
Who cares? Like, no signs of decline last year. First in fantasy points per game, first in yards per route run, first in ESPN's overall metric because he was top 2 in both, or in the trio of open score, catch score, yak score. He does everything at a high level. He's like, if he was just extremely good at yak, he would be a top 5 tight end. He's extremely good at getting open. He's got great hands, and he doesn't leave the field because he's not a good blocker, because he's a vicious, awesome blocker. So no, I mean, I think the volume is a legitimate concern. It's what, not even concern. It's what holds him out of the Kittle, Trey McBride, or of the Bowers, Trey McBride tiers. Like, he's just not going to threaten to lead the league in catches. Like, that just is not how.
Even without Debo, he's not going to do that. Totally.
Yep. It's just, that's not part of how I think it could be part of his game. I think you send him to a lot of other teams and he literally does threaten to lead the league, at least lead all tight ends, but like can push for the league high in catches. Yeah. That's just not how the 49ers are going to play, both in terms of passing volume and having other weapons to go around. But the fact that he doesn't have as many catches as Bowers or McBride is just the difference between being tight end 2 and the tight end 3. So that's all.
So not many veterans making news this week. George Kittle, though, making news with a big extension. But of course, it's back to rookie talk, where we go on and on and on about players we've yet to see play a single snap in the NFL. But one player, New Orleans.football's Nick Underhill, doesn't seem to expect to play a snap in 2025 is Derek Carr. Or Nick Underhill already seemingly being driven to madness by the Derek Carr saga, where you have Derek Carr like in church. Like, I'm not trying to be funny. Like in church, like literally almost swearing to God that he's hurt. Like he's on stage, like insisting he's hurt at a church. Like, all right, it's kind of interesting.
That's a choice, as the kids say.
It is the choice to talk about your football injury from the pulpit. Derek Carr did do that this week. He's insisting he's hurt. Mike Triplett said there's an 80% or higher odds that Tyler Shough, the infamous second-round pick, number 40 overall, is going to start 80% of the games this year, Mr. Denny. And I mean, listen, we're not a big believer in the young man. For one reason, because he's not a young man.
I was going to say, you had a perfect setup of like talk. You said something about NFL veterans. We're talking about 32-year-old Kittle, and we move on to 33-year-old Tyler Shough. There was a perfect setup there.
There was, but so Denny, Tyler Shough looks like he's going to be the Saints quarterback. Top 40 is about as close to, like, that's about the cutoff for like reasonable odds. You could be a rookie starter He's at the reasonable odds threshold. Derek Carr does not want to be a New Orleans Saint. The feeling appears mutual. Is this a fiasco in the making for potential fake sharp Kellen Moore?
I do want to say, first of all, that the edict that we have to watch Derek Carr's Sunday church services from now on Rotoworld blurb shifts, I think that's too much. You know, I don't think we should.
We want to be thorough. We want to be thorough.
But it's
we miss any news.
We do what we have to do. This is not going to work. You know, I mean, it's like very, very clearly. I mean, although, look, if I have to make things interesting, and I will, Pro Football Focus graded Shough as the 15th best quarterback in college football last year. Okay,
it's actually kind of a red flag.
Not his pressure to sack rate was only 9%, which is really low and really good somehow.
Seventh year senior savvy
with extensive injury history, by the way. That is, he doesn't scramble too, which is very like Michael Penix, runs extremely fast and never runs coded because he tore like the ACLs in both of his knees. It's very, Shough has a similar like probably aversion to hits and injury in that sense, but it works out well for him. Like you said,
that's veteran sense. Sorry, Denny.
It is a really good pressure to sack rate. Like he does not kill plays with sacks at all. That's a good point.
And guys, I can't get out of my head that viral clip of Shough at the combine throwing it short armed to a guy crossing through the middle of the field. I mean, that
8 yards away from him. Like it's like a running back running out of the slot level of like he is not making his way downfield.
And he misses it by miles. He misses the throw by miles. I mean, I can't. Every time someone says Tyler Shough, I instantly go back to that viral clip because it's like one of the worst things I've ever seen from a quarterback.
When you guys talk about the pressure to sack rate of 9%, that is elite. But it also brings me back to the only Tyler Shough stat I can't get over. And that was that he led the nation in throwaways.
Yeah, there you go.
Last year. Like,
there
dude, like you're in college. This is when you're supposed to be trying to get drafted. Like you're supposed to be like Cam Ward, like, big play down there somewhere, or 35 yards spinning sack out here somewhere. And instead he's just throwing it away like he's Aaron Rodgers being passive aggressive in Green Bay. I mean, again, you could call that veteran savvy, I guess, but
I mean,
we literally complain about Aaron Rodgers, like one of the greatest quarterbacks of my lifetime, doing it too much. And this guy, like you said, he's in college, dude. You can throw past defenders, man.
Dude,
you're gonna get drafted.
Like,
you're not in the SEC either. Good point. You're freaking Louisville. You're playing SMU. You have the arm talent to beat these guys. And he's like, I also have the arm talent to reach my offensive coordinator.
Does he, Denny?
No. 5% touchdown rate last year. 5% is like really low. I mean, like
in the ACC, that's like the equivalent of like 2.1% in the NFL.
What? I he looks like a quarterback, which is important for teams. I honestly, there are probably like 6 quarterbacks who went after him who I would happily take over Shough as a starter in week 1.
Don't say Dylan Gabriel.
I could make the pitch. I can.
I think I can. I think
Gabriel make the spreadsheets go burr. He's tiny. He's an itsy bitsy man for an NFL quarterback.
Dylan Gabriel, not a real quarterback, but that's fine. Riley Leonard, also not a real quarterback. One of the people Denny will say, and he's going to talk about in a little bit. But the Shough thing, like it's Kellen Moore too. Like I don't know, man. He got fired twice in 2 years. Then he gets brought aboard like Howie Roseman's rising tide. Like, hopefully you have a good offense with Saquon Barkley. Like,
I know. And really, like that's his whole offense was just give it to Saquon. Like there's nothing special about it.
My thing on Kellen Moore
program thing, he showed up and did what was the most obvious thing possible.
What I wrote in my Kellen Moore coaching article write-up is that like sometimes an idea will be rattling around the NFL for so long that I feel like no one can even tell if it's a good idea anymore or not. And I think one of those was Kellen Moore, head coach, where he had the really great first year coordinating the Cowboys offense. The league got it in its head that he's a future head coaching candidate.
Right.
And he's like never let go of that concept. I sort of feel like that's what happened with Kellen Moore, but he is smart. He's also just learned from some of the best in Philadelphia. He does have a lot of experience at this point, despite being very young. So he's a good combination of youth and experience. Kellen Moore hire, I guess we need to reserve judgment, but not on Tyler Shough. It's not going to work. Spencer Rattler going to somehow win this competition. It's never been.
I have seen some cope on Spencer Rattler that would make you want to throw up. Honestly, like it's wild. Saints fans really think they have something there.
Yeah, come on, man. They gotta think something. And like you have to have some sort of hope.
I mean, they'd be better.
As someme who lived in like Northeast Ohio for 15 years, you don't have to have hope, man. You do not.
So, by the way, Denny, you have to admit this. You got to admit you'd rather have Shedeur, right? You got.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Shedeur hater. You'd rather have Shedeur than Shough.
100. Listen, Shedeur Sanders is like the best thing since Drew Brees if he goes to New Orleans.
By the way, they've made 3 arrests in the Shedeur Sanders prank call case.
Oh, thank God justice is being served. We have our attorney general looking into it.
I will say I'd be so mortified if my son did what Jack Stolbrick did.
Man, there would be a lot of timeouts going on.
I gotta be honest. I am totally everyone look, I'm scolding my kid because I was a bit of a prankster when I was young.
Oh man, so. I talked to Denny about this before. I'm so glad caller ID like ruined the concept of prank
killed
calls.
The game, brother. They killed the game.
When my friends were making prank calls, I would get like sweatily nervous. Like, do we really have to do this? Like, please don't.
Do we have to do?
I am the person who throws you the phone as he hears it pick up, and it lands in your lap, and you're like, you don't know what to do.
She's just a nice old lady. We don't have to do this. But yeah, prank calls. Apparently trying to bring them back. We are also bringing back more Jack Bech talk. We talked about it on Tuesday, Denny, Carter, and I. But the Las Vegas Review-Journal confirms he is a strong candidate to be an immediate starter. Denny, Carter, Are you any more interested in the young man? There's not slot reps or snaps or targets for the taking in Vegas because of Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers. But he proved he could be viable on the outside last year. It's why he was the second-round pick, Jack Bech, out of TCU. What do you think about Jack Bech starting? And what will probably be a very run-heavy Las Vegas Raiders offense? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, it's a good story, but you know the profile is not good. You know, I mean, it might be. It's almost a bad profile. 51st in yards per route run last year, breakout age of 22. He's targeted on 21% of his routes last year. I don't know. Nothing pops to me as like a guy who's going to stand in there and command targets. And especially this Chip Kelly offense is going to be probably bottom 5 in pass rate over expected. I don't know if there's a whole lot of juice here for
anything to add on Jack Bech. Yeah, I actually think you're being a little bearish because he started his career as a slot guy. Then he was really, really effective as an outside guy, even though you just claimed he wasn't effective. It's an acute need for the Raiders. Pete Carroll's offense I know it's Chip Kelly, but this is really Pete Carroll's offense. Pete Carroll's offense always feature those shot plays to receivers. I think he could be, and people fixate on everything but the draft capital. Like they'll focus on 10 Jack Bech facts. It's like talking about him like he's like a 6th round pick, and he like go to his Wikipedia. Like the guy was like the number 40 overall pick. Like maybe relax a little bit. Do you have any counter takes, Kyle, or not really?
No, I mean I agree with Denny on that. I was not that interested in his profile either. The one thing you can sort of give him, because like the 4th year late breakout, not super efficient, like that's kind of just like an immediate bundle of red flags that get thrown at his profile, and you can kind of just use that to write a lot of guys off, and you won't be 100% correct, but more often than not, you're kind of fine fading that type player. I will say for the early career production, he was like a weird tight end slot wide receiver in his freshman year at LSU, like truly did get a bunch of inline snaps, and he led a team that had Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, Trey Palmer, and one other player I'm forgetting, one like NFL player, in catches, not in yards, not in touchdowns. He wasn't super efficient, but to go out there and earn snaps, albeit in a weird role, but to earn catches, earn snaps, maybe there's something there. And I mean, those are really talented LSU teams up to the time that he left and transferred. So maybe you give him some slack on the lack of early career production, really. And like Pat said, you also, as much as you want to fade guys who are like late breakout, not that efficient, you don't want to be fading guys who go on day 2, who their team clearly is invested in finding a role for them and has an opening at that exact role. So I think he's like a fine pick. He's striking me more as a guy I'm excited about in best ball, where like I can get a guy who has some year 1 upside that seemingly isn't priced in, can find a role right away, And in Dynasty, I'm like, I do want to rely a little bit more on my perception of talent. Be like, I don't know if I see a ceiling with this guy. And I want to draft guys in Dynasty that have smash ceilings. But in best ball, you can sort of trade a little bit of ceiling for a little bit of floor, especially when like all rookies kind of have ceiling in that sense. So maybe that's where the split is, that you can convince yourself that the year one hit for Bech is meaningful, especially in best ball.
Bech could be a
nice
classic.
Producer Adam. It was Kayshon Boutte, who also legit NFL talent. He's not the best, but 4 NFL wide receivers, 2 superstars on that team, and you earned a bunch of catches. Like that means something.
Bech could be the prototypical hashtag better in best ball. We're talking about some other guys who could be better in best ball when we come back right after this. The first Saturday in May is the ultimate all-day live celebration. It's the Kentucky Derby, live at 2:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC and streaming on Peacock. Plus, prepare for the action at Churchill Downs this week with race previews, analysis, betting tips, features, and lifestyle at NBCSports.com/Kentucky Derby. Denny had something else somehow to add.
You always know when I'm about to interject right before an ad. Just getting to the best ball thing, I feel like, the idea of a Raiders stack is pretty easy with Nino, Bowers, Bech. Maybe you throw in Jacoby Myers as well. Like that's doable, right?
If you do that stack, then you don't even have to bother to learn the Week 17 matchups because you're not going to make it there. So if you got the Raiders stacked, you will not be making it there.
That's another option.
So Denny, you wrote up draft weekend steals.
I did.
We talked about Jalen Royals on Tuesday. He was one of them. Someone we haven't talked about yet at all in the fallout from the draft. This is our 3rd post-draft episode, and Elic Ayomanor has yet to come up yet. A 4th-round pick of the Tennessee Titans out of Stanford. He's another guy with kind of unusual profile and production background. Why do you think Elic might be a fantasy steal? A guy who maybe profiles as Cam Ward's primary downfield receiver. Tennessee desperately needs Calvin Ridley to not be their main downfield guy. Is that one reason why you think Ayomanor, Denny, is one of the steals of draft weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think his profile is interesting from the aspect, or in the context of having Cam Ward have a guy who can hit downfield. Like really beyond that, I don't know if this guy is going to have much week-to-week value, but he's an outside contested catch kind of guy from Stanford. He had a career ADOT of 14.1 and a contested catch rate of 48%, which is very high. But that's what you would expect from a guy with that profile. I'm not interested in like taking him in a redraft, I don't think. But certainly it gives Ward maybe a little more touchdown upside. Because outside of Ridley, like they're down horrific in that receiver room. I mean, what do they have? Treylon Burks. They have the former teammate from Miami,
Xavier Restrepo. Guys, which veteran free agent did they sign? Does anyone know?
Tyler. No.
You were so close.
Really? Tyler Lockett.
That's right.
Ding, ding, ding. That's a winner.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So Lockett's not that guy anymore.
No,
so maybe the rookie can be. The Restrepo, he's 100% making the team, by the way.
He is.
I know that he was undrafted, but he's going to make it. He's a dog.
He's on the team. Yeah. There's no point in pretending he won't be on the team.
He's a dog, and he's boys with Cam Ward. It's over.
Yes. Yeah. Ayomanor, I really think he could be the guy down the field, though. And Cam Ward, so Ayomanor is kind of a contested catch guy. Cam Ward is a contested catch quarterback. Like he's actually willing to pull the trigger on some of these more difficult throws. But Ayomanor is not going to be, if he becomes a redraft guy, it's the classic like bye weeks are mounting. You need upside. You understand he could take a 0, but he could also score like a 52-yard touchdown. That will be the function Ayomanor probably serves as a rookie in redraft, but so vaguely more intriguing in best ball, vaguely more intriguing in dynasty. Denny, are you really going to talk about Riley Leonard again?
Did we talk about him yesterday?
Did you ever see this guy play? No, actually. Well, you've talked about him a lot off air is actually what I'm thinking of. But did you ever see this guy play?
I did, and I had him in college DFS a lot, and he always scored 40 points for me.
That's because he doesn't throw. That's because he's not a quarterback.
That's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm just talking, guys. I want the listeners to know. I'm talking strictly from a fantasy standpoint. And what does he have standing in his way? He has Anthony Richardson. All the coaches for the Colts are out on Richardson. It's clear. completely out. They're looking for a reason to never play him again. And then
maybe that might be their dream. That's not going to be reality. I can tell you that.
I agree with
that
this. I believe it is their, like, I don't think they see it in him, but the front office is like, well, squint harder, buddy. So
yeah, I know, it's going to be a squint harder situation with
Yeah,
Anthony Richardson. I can tell
So
you.
and also Leonard, not a strong arm, not an accurate passer, but
So AKA
Keep going.
not a quarterback.
but last season only 7 quarterbacks in the nation had a higher adjusted completion rate than Leonard, and he was sacked on only 12% of his pressures, which is not super great, but it's okay.
Yeah, that's
It's
okay.
good enough.
it's a good. I'd say it's good. It's not like special good. Like Shough,
Right.
to his credit. I mean, it's a throwaway thing. It's because he threw the ball away every time, but a throwaway is better than a sack.
I just want people to know that Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard seemingly really like this kid Leonard. They wanted him,
How
from
many
the jump.
times did they pass on him? Let's see here.
That was only
What are
5 or
you gonna do?
6.
What are you going to
He's
do?
a
Take him in the
6th round pick. They really like him. You're busting out. They really like him on a 6th round pick.
They like him more than anybody else. That's
Do they? I guess.
And I think it's a good landing spot in that he has 2 terrible quarterbacks in front of him. He can get there. He can get there.
That's the sales pitch to me. Is like, especially in a super flex dynasty league, he can start in year 1. It probably is like late season. Oh, you big Anthony Richardson fan.
I know where this is coming from. They have a $15 million veteran free agent edition, and like they're circle the wagons. Like, this has to work. Last chance, 1st round pick from 2 years ago.
Let's see. Quarterback.
I'm not really seeing
last year. Quarterback. This team benched last year, and quarterback cut last year.
I think
Mid-season
his
cut.
main avenue to starting is going to be 2 injuries, which is quite plausible with the 2 quarterbacks. I really don't think. I think Riley Leonard is more like, let's develop him for a year and see if anything. I don't really think they're looking to get him on the field.
To be fair, I think when we were group chatting, I said 20% he starts, right? But like, there are a bunch of quarterbacks that are 0% to start. And to Denny's point,
0.
yeah, it's higher than 0. And to Denny's point, he's going to score fantasy points when he starts. It's going to be ugly. And I don't think he's an elite rusher. I mean, I found this quote and I had to check a ton of times to make sure it was right. At his pro day, he chose not to run the 40, which I'm like, that's weird. Like, you're a running quarterback, but a day 3 guy. You need to show everyone that you're fast. You got the trait. He chooses not to run. And he says, everyone thinks I'm really fast. We're going to keep it that way. What do you mean? So
Pretty
you
funny,
saying
actually,
you're not
yeah.
fast?
I actually
Oh
kinda
my
like
God, that one killed me.
To bring it all together, I think I've maybe already made this point on air. I know I've forcefully made it in group text to Denny. I do think Riley Leonard could be Taysom, but good. I think that could maybe be
supercharged Taysom.
Yes, supercharged because Taysom genuinely straight up cannot throw. Riley Leonard can throw a little bit.
Right.
Like, he can be actually good Taysom Hill. He's a similar runner to Taysom.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm on board with that comp. Yeah.
I also think Taysom makes sense as a rushing comp too, because like Taysom isn't that like Lamar Jackson speed threat kind of guy, and Leonard is ultimately not like the greatest breakaway runner. Like, he was similar in terms of rushing production to guys like Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones in college, in terms of got good volume, got like good fantasy numbers for rushing, but I don't think he has that early career Kyler, Jalen Hurts, or like Lamar level of this guy can change the game with his legs. He's kind of a power runner. He scored a ton of touchdowns
for sure. Yeah.
He scored a ton of touchdowns in his final season. That's kind of what Anthony Richardson is doing in the NFL too. He's not the rush for 1,000 yards Justin Fields type. He's probably the rush for double-digit touchdowns when it works type, but hasn't really worked.
In our group text, I think one of my arguments, I claimed that he's going to get vaporized like the first NFL hit he takes. Then after we were done texting, I'm like, yeah, what? That's probably not true. Took a lot of hits in big-time college football.
He got dinged up in his final year.
He did miss some time, actually.
Wasn't it? It was a Duke, right?
At Duke, he missed some time. Yeah, I think he also played with like some broken ribs or something. He did.
Okay, look, all the good running quarterbacks play with broken ribs every now and then.
That's called the Taysom. Like, they just assume you have a broken rib. So Riley Leonard, we've already set up. I do love that already on May 1st, we've set up a confrontation player. Like, where every time he comes up, I'm going to get a little mad.
We gotta like, you gotta set up little breadcrumbs for future episodes, right?
Yeah. Listen, I want to lay the groundwork for saying, like, okay, they said Riley Leonard's starting because Richardson is injured and Jones is benched, whatever, and so like fire him up. Like, it's not a question. Yeah, I'm prepping people for that mindset.
So what you're doing is called squatters' rights on a take. It's take squatters' rights. So when I show up, because like I don't like them as much as you do, to be fair. When I show up in week 17, I'm like fire him up in DFS. You're like, no, I've been on this land since May 1st.
And I make it illegal for you to.
Yes, absolutely.
You change the territorial constitution, and like it's not even legally allowed. It's not legally allowed to talk about Tre Harris again. Actually, I don't know if we've talked about him yet, but
I don't think we
did my 10 fantasy fits article, over half of which were suggested by Kyle, but thankfully were people I already wanted to write up. One of them was Tre Harris, the number 55 overall pick. And Kyle, I liked your line on Tre Harris, where you basically said the Chargers, they open the spreadsheet, they organize it by yards per route run, and then just go from the top. It sort of seems like that's what happened with Tre Harris. Similarly efficient to Ladd McConkey in college, but he's bigger. He plays bigger. He operates more on the boundary, where the Chargers like desperately need help. Why do we like the Tre Harris to Los Angeles Chargers fit? Pretty obvious one for the article. A huge need for the Bolts. So of course there's some obvious reasons we like it, but what are some maybe under the hood reasons we like Tre Harris landing with the Chargers?
Yeah, to your point, not like you could just take single seasons for the past decade, maybe even like 15 or 18 years. I forget how far the data goes back, and sort by yards per route run, minimum 200 routes. He barely crossed 200. That's why I got to use that key number. Tre Harris at the top of FBS wide receivers. Like, it is one of the best seasons his last year at Ole Miss we've ever seen in terms of just pure efficiency, dominated targets for that team. It was his fifth year. I think you say like a lot of guys could have stayed for a fifth year and been as good as he was. But those are a lot of good NFL players that could do that. He's a intermediate, deep outside receiver. Like you said, he kind of plays like the Clasher T. Higgins type. He's not quite that big, but he invites a lot of contested targets. He's not as big as T. Higgins, but man, he won in the SEC with ease. Kind of half of his games last year weren't even in the SEC because he only played 8 games, but he still did really well in his 4 conference games last year. And that's the compliment we need for Ladd McConkey, who can play outside, but I think is at his best as the hyper versatile slot receiver. And look, QJ, credit to him for shaping up his game last year, but his last year kind of reminds me of that Jahan Dotson rookie year, where like he scored a bunch of touchdowns, showed he can maybe be a splash play kind of guy, but it wasn't a long-term number 2 receiver.
QJ is like desperately hoping to be the next Brashad Perriman. Like that is what
I mean, like these guys that they hang around the league for a long time, and sometimes they find themselves in a spot where they can make an impact. But I don't think, to me, I haven't seen anything over the past 2 years that says he is a clear team's number 2 over the long run. And this is a team that desperately needs a number 2 for Justin Herbert, and someone who can take advantage of elite arm talent in Herbert. And I think, I mean, at least based on the draft capital, based on the efficiency, based on the profile, it does look like Harris is that guy.
Denny, anything you want to add on Tre Harris? Did we cover all the bases?
I was going to talk about the efficiency, which Kyle obviously covered, and that's how I evaluate receivers too. So congratulations to the Chargers.
Did not know Denny was the GM of the Chargers.
I am. I meant to tell you guys. I forgot. And I did want to mention that that Harris received the second highest PFF receiving grade last year, only behind Jaden Higgins. I also want to take this opportunity to say that Nick Nash was 7th.
Yeah, stop.
Undrafted free agent Nick Nash.
You say, tell us what pick he was, Nick Nash.
He was not a pick. He was too good to be. He was too good to be a pick.
He was too good. I actually do like that. The teams didn't want to touch that one. They didn't know what to do. He's a big personality, like Shedeur Sanders.
They didn't know. They had no idea.
Yeah, Cowboys like CeeDee Lamb was not going to like this pick. Let's just keep our guy happy.
By the way, have you guys, while we're podcasting, have you gotten hashtag trade Luka trending yet? We need to get this trending. Luka is the problem.
He needs to go.
Nico Harrison did not. Then are you workshopping? Nico Harrison did nothing wrong yet.
Nico Harrison,
the Mavs GM,
guy who traded
GM.
Oh, no. I just learned who that guy is. So no, I haven't been workshopping that.
Well, you're going to have to do some quick research and determine after the show. Nico Harrison did nothing wrong as a tailor-made.
Well, he got a lot in exchange for Luka, right?
That's for another show. Other than utterly obliterating all hope and affection Mavericks fans felt for their franchise, Nico got a lot for Luka Doncic. That's neither here nor there. You know what's neither here or what is here and there, Denny, is Kyle Williams going to the New England Patriots, a really, really barren receiver depth chart. The big addition before the draft with Stephon Diggs, who was declining even before his torn ACL last season. You got Pop Douglas is maxing out as just a guy. Kayshon Boutte, he's trying to get to like above replacement level, but really just seems to be like a replacement level talent. So many targets for the taking. Hunter Henry led this team in targets last year. Is that one of our favorite stats that's real that seems fake? I think that was one of the crazy Patriots stats.
Yeah.
I keep making the point Josh McDaniels is like a his guys guy. They're clearly not taking Kyle Williams unless he has the major Josh McDaniels stamp of approval, Denny. So why do we like Kyle Williams on the New England Patriots besides those really obvious reasons I just laid out?
Right. I mean, to me, it's just the fact that there's really nobody there to command targets. Pop Douglas on most teams is not a starter at all.
No, he's like the number 5. He's like a sub package player, probably a special teamer.
And for a lot of last year, he was like the clear number 1 receiver for New England. Besides, again, and we can't emphasize this enough, Hunter Henry drew a lot of targets. So it's just barren. So Kyle Williams, I feel like, would have to just be really bad in order not to be targeted at a high rate.
Which, to be fair, he could be.
He could be. He checks some suspect boxes.
Look, as someone who drafted a bunch of Jalen Polk last year making these exact same arguments, I just don't see how he could be bad.
Right,
I can't be wrong on this
so, that's what thank you. I was getting to. So if he's Jalen Polk, I forget if he had a bad game or a good game, but then it's not going to work. Okay. But I think just judging from his profile, he's a big play guy, 16 touchdowns last year. Like I feel like he's not going to be Jalen Polk. I think that he's going to be much better.
I don't think so either. And I think he could be like the manufactured touch guy primarily because again, he's the one guy Josh McDaniels went out and got other than the running back that they did not need really. They kind of needed, but so he's going to be manufacturing touches for Henderson. He's going to be manufacturing touches for Williams. We overinterpret single data points sometimes, but my big data point with Kyle Williams is I've been so haunted by Josh McDaniels ever since his 1 year in St. Louis where he'd made like half of their draft picks. And like, these are my guys. We can only use them, my guys.
Yeah.
And
no, it's true though. I mean, it is a real factor for real football and fantasy. And another thing that separates Kyle Williams from Jalen Polk is that Williams was second in the nation last year in yak per reception. So a guy who can really do something after he catches the ball. That really wasn't Polk's game.
Kyle, are you stacking Kyle Williams picks in best ball, or is he not really a target? Because I have to imagine that, as an acolyte, an apostle of Patrick Crane, you're probably all in on Drake May. Does that mean you're all in on Kyle Williams?
All right. Well, I feel a little exposed right now. But yes, all those things are true. All right. You caught me. I like the quarterback who runs and has a big arm, and he's not that expensive.
And he gets a concussion evaluation every 42 minutes of real time.
All right. Well, you guys aren't playing in PPC leagues enough, points per concussion leagues. I'm also winning those ones. He does, man. He loves to lower his helmet.
He does.
Great. Please. We need you for the next weeks. This week is not the only week that exists in time. There's other weeks going on. When he's on the field, really accurate. Great arm, truly great arm talent, and he runs, which to his detriment sometimes, not only physically, health-wise, but just he is a guy who will scramble immediately once he gets pressured. For fantasy, that's awesome, but having an awesome arm and being really accurate should, in theory, be really good for his pass catchers. Williams is one of 2 or 3 players in this class who had a true freshman breakout. It was a weird season. I believe he was at UNLV at the time, and it was a COVID season. But man, he doubled up everyone else in that team in a very short season in yardage, small school dominator who just clearly was playing at a level that no one else in whatever conference he was in, it was probably Mountain West, was. So I don't know. Those are the kind of guys that I gravitate to. Super productive, who clearly was just a class above the rest, albeit small school is a legit knock on him.
Denny, earlier, I thought of a gotcha that I wanted to hit Denny with earlier.
Yeah, go.
What conference are the Stanford Cardinal currently in college football?
Oh, I know this because it is an abomination without equal. It's the ACC.
Yeah. When I think the Atlantic coast of America, I think Stanford.
Listen,
didn't they feel like a layup to be in the Big Ten? They feel very Big Ten, like West Coast Rutgers or whatever. To get to the ACC feels stunning.
I grew up watching the ACC tournament. I grew up watching ACC football, believe it or not. Okay. Like, yeah, I'm an ACC guy. So for a West Coast team, there were ACC games last year that started at 10:35 p.m. Eastern time.
ESPN too. Yeah,
That can't
the
be right.
Big East would have been a better conference, and they're not a conference, and its East is in the name, and it still would have been a better conference.
And Congress did nothing. They did nothing about this.
Take a real short break. Then we're going to talk about Kyle's draft grades right after this. The run-in for the Premier League is live on NBC and streaming and Peacock with crucial fixtures in the race for Europe. This Saturday, catch Arsenal as the Gunners look to finish strong against Bournemouth. First kick is set for 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Europe, of course, being the Champions League and the Europa League. A lot of good teams not even in the mix for the Europa League this year. We're looking at you, Man U, and Tottenham. We're looking at you, Kyle Dvorchak, for your NFC draft grades. Eric Froton handled the AFC. Our guy, Connor Rogers, also some draft grades out. We are pumping out the draft content this year. We'll end negative. We'll start positive. Who had your highest draft grade in the AFC, and why was that, Kyle?
It was Seattle Seahawks, and they were a team who I think had both a lot of short-term and a lot of long-term needs. And not only did they fill them, but I don't want to just give teams like, you drafted X position when I thought you should have. Like, just give them a boost. Like, you should also have to draft good players, draft relatively close to what would be like the consensus big boards, not even because they're always right, but because if you are taking someone 30 picks ahead of where the consensus big boards are, they predict draft capital really well. There's a game within the game in which it also matters to get players at good values, to stack up value just like we do in fantasy. Like, there is legitimate evidence to that being what you want to do. And so they weren't making huge reaches while still filling positions of need. I mean, they go guard, tackle. I'm not sure they're going to play him, probably tackle in terms of his rookie year, but guy with extreme positional versatility in Gray Zabel. After that, 10.0, literally best RAS of all time safety, Nick Amanwari. And then later in the draft, the Jalen Milroe pick it's what's like the opposite of like walking into traffic to pick up pennies. It's like just taking the free money. Like, he's a 3rd round quarterback with elite traits, and your quarterback has like injury guarantees and conditional guarantees, guarantees that trigger later next year. And that is it, that being Sam Darnold. So they've given Sam Darnold a chance by protecting him a little bit. The line's not going to be that good, but they're trying to improve the line. But if those things don't help, they have what I think is a really good day 2 flyer to just see if they can find something, see if they can find a diamond in the rough on day 2. And then they took, this one's a little bit of a player take one, but I do love the receivers. They took, I know Denny does too, Ricky White and Torrey Horton, 2 like outside. They play like speedsters. They're not actually. Torrey Horton is fast. Ricky White is not that fast, but outside boundary threat guys for a team that weirdly doubled up on slot only guys, that being JSN and Cooper Kupp. This is the type of player they needed. And they took 2 of them that I like on day 3. So thought they got, in my opinion, good players. I don't want to lean too heavily on my player takes, but also at good values, also at positions of need. They just kind of checked all of the good boxes.
Also, it was a volume draft, 11 picks. I think that was tied for the most, and kind of sensibly spreading the flyers around, filling needs. Yeah, like again, doing the bulk approach to some needs too. And like, I hate to say this, but Sam Darnold, Denny, he's looking very Matt Flynn strong. Like, he's looking like Matt Flynn 2.0. Like, well, surely this 3rd round rookie who was a star in college won't come in and just take the starting job from our dubiously highly paid 1-year wonder free agent edition, right? Right.
1-year wonder. I don't know. I feel like comparing Darnold to Flynn is kind of rough.
No, name Sam Darnold's other great seasons.
For Flynn. Yeah.
Stop. What are you talking? Darnold is like a legit like toolsy guy.
Yeah, but he's toolsy, but it's not.
Matt Flynn was never good. Never good.
Why did he get all that money?
He had one good game.
Yeah,
you guys, okay, let's recall. He had one good game at the end of the season, and the Seahawks were like, "Yeah, we want that guy." He stunk.
I forgot, Denny, that it was literally one game.
It was one.
And I'm on his Pro Football Reference. It was one game.
It was one game.
One game.
And so, Darnold is way better than that. Darnold is going to start. He's going to start for most of the season.
That's good. As long as you pencil him for 14 games, that's good.
How
many hundreds of millions? Only 100s of millions? Who cares?
Well, and if the season goes downhill quickly, then obviously Milroe is probably going to get in there sooner rather than later. But Milroe has a lot of warts on his profile.
All right, Riley Leonard guy.
Real quick though, yeah, I know. First, yeah, but also though,
Give me a break.
Denny, Jalen Milroe. We'll pretend the Riley Leonard take doesn't exist. Jalen Milroe, of course, instantly better than Tyler Shough, right? I think Denny's.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay, there you go.
All right, thank God.
Yeah. What? Why do you guys? You can't name a quarterback who I'll be like, no, Shuck's better.
I love this game. We get to do this with a lot of quarterbacks going forward.
Anyway, no. And Milroe for fantasy is really bad for the pass catchers. Okay, like really, really terrible. And Darnold is probably pretty good for the pass catchers in the Seattle offense.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
He's a distributor, guys. He's a point
with KFC. He's a distributor. Now he's on a team that wants to be fire and brimstone, run heavy. They fired the coordinator who called passes. I think this is setting up to be Panthers, Sam Darnold, and we might be.
That was really good.
Only JSN is coming out of this thing alive. I think is kind of what's happening.
Yeah, look, Cup is. There's almost no chance he's relevant in 12-team leagues.
No, zero chance, 0.0.
All right, I tried to soft soap it a little bit.
Roll the tape, of course, in November when he's leading the league in PPR points.
Well, one of the rookies I think is going to pop, and I appreciate the Seahawks front office for reading my NBC Sports article on both that mentioned both those guys. And I think that they did have a really good draft, but the quarterback situation I think is still very much in flux. I think Milroe could sit for a lot of the season.
You muted yourself, and you know what? Maybe we should keep it that way.
No, so Kyle, take us home on the worst draft in the NFC. Of course, not counting the Atlanta Falcons, which had by far the worst draft in the NFC. We've already belabored that point. Who had the second worst draft of the NFC's 16 teams? Take us home.
All right, folks. Look, I know we did this 2 or 3 years ago with the Lions. This time it counts, is what I posit to you. And so people are comparing this draft in which the Lions reached on a defensive tackle to start, reached on a player I actually like, but this is the thing. I don't want to lean too much on my player takes, like especially a freaking offensive lineman, Tate Rutledge from Georgia. Like I think he's a good lineman. He's athletic. He played a bunch of games at Georgia. Like that's all you can ask for your offensive lineman. Be athletic, be good at a big school. That being said, in terms of the big board stuff, was a reach. And then of course the reach has to be the reach of the entire draft. Arkansas wide receiver Isaac Tesla, like just he was like super dominant at D2's Hillsdale College, and then transferred to Arkansas and did nothing, just could not contribute. I mean, like he was a sub 20% dominator. So when I say did nothing, I'm exaggerating, but not by as much as I'd feel comfortable. Like I wish I was exaggerating by more, frankly. So to me, it was starting off with a bunch of reaches. And oh God, I forgot the worst part. They traded 2 future third-round picks to get up to Isaac Tesla. Yeah. It wasn't just the reach. This is what put them over the edge as the asterisk not Atlanta Falcons worst draft in the NFC, is to trade 2 future thirds. And people are comping this draft to the Jack Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs draft. And in some ways, yeah, like they're kind of reaching to get their own guys, right? But they weren't reaching on, like, I sound mean saying bad players. They weren't reaching in terms of, I don't think Isaac Tesla is a future NFL starting wide receiver. Like, I think he's a wide receiver 4 special teamer. Whereas when they did that, they got Jahmyr Gibbs, who was one of the most dynamic pass catching running backs we've seen come out of college. Do I think you should spend the number 12 overall pick on a great pass catching but committee back? No. And ultimately, maybe they were right. Maybe you should have. But like, he was a locked in, going to be a really good player. Jack Campbell was an insane off-ball linebacker. And I didn't like it for the positional value, but I legitimately thought they got good players. I don't like, I like their guard or whatever, but like, I think they reached on Tyleik, I believe how you say his name, Williams, Ohio State defensive tackle, who's fine, but just not a plus contributor in the long run, I don't think. And I don't know what at all they're getting from Tesla. So to me, this had some similarities with that draft a few years ago that they nailed. But the thing is, I don't think they locked in great player wins. I think they locked in much less than that.
Get ready to learn instantly owned somehow on.
I know.
People, after the Lions fans, after like Brad Holmes ended up being quote right about that draft, they have not forgotten.
No, they're still mad. Tesla's bad. Under 2 yards per route run in both years at Arkansas, 16% target per route run. It's over. Like, okay, like he's Matt Jones. Remember Matt Jones, the Jaguars? Okay. So super athletic, you know, and he had 97th percentile of burst score for Tesla. But come on, man, this is not happening. It's just not.
Tesla falls into the category of combine crushers who truly, I mean, Denny said his burst metrics, but every metric he was absolutely elite in. There's like also a lot of evidence to show guys who rise from good combines in terms of their big board pre-combine to where they end up going drafted. Guys who rise extremely because of good combines are generally not good hits. The NFL overvalues that kind of stuff. It's good to be athletic, but it is not good when being athletic and not being productive is what gets you drafted.
Seems like you should focus on whether or not this player was actually good in college football instead of what they do, what Mike Florio calls the underwear Olympics. My only thought on Isaac Tesla, why is the S capitalized?
Why is the S capitalized?
I wonder if this is like a typo that people just kept rolling with or something. Like, well, that's how ESPN does it. So that's how we're going to do it.
We have to look strongly into this.
We have to look strongly into ending our show. We are out of time, but such great stuff from Denny Carter and Kyle Dvorchak. They have articles out. I have an article out. Lawrence Jackson has an article out. We have so much good stuff on the website. We have so much more good stuff coming. We have a mock draft next week. So for Denny and Kyle, I'm Pat. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back on Tuesday.